What's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambo. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Flying solo for the time being. Tim will be joining us shortly. He's wrapping some stuff up, and I know the chat's already lit up. Here to talk a little Packers this morning as we move into the bye week a little bit deeper, getting closer to a Packer game day. As obviously in a couple of days, we'll be 7 days away from Packers-Bears. Really excited about that matchup. First things first, though, let's give a quick shout-out to the good folks over at Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. Wisconsin-based since 92, specializing in Packers tickets. They're Wisconsin's largest ticket source with offices next to Lambeau and in Milwaukee. Click on the link in the video description. That'll send you to theticketking.com, where you can register for free as a customer and go ahead and start shopping for your Packers tickets. Again, that's Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. I know the chat's already lit up in here this morning as everybody's getting geared up for a full day of college football. Got some really fun matchups there. I'm really looking forward to Michigan, who is, I believe, unranked now, facing a top 10 Indiana team, which is going to be a lot of fun. That'll be one that I'll probably have on in the background as I'm doing some Chalk Talk prep. Just so you guys and gals know, the plan is Chalk Talk Tuesday. We will still do Chalk Talk Tuesday. What we're going to do this week is 2 Chalk Talk episodes. And the way we're going to approach it is we're going to do the top offensive plays of the first half of the season, and then we'll do a separate episode for the top defensive plays of the first half of the season. And I got to be real, like I was breaking down the tape today. This morning, got up early, got a couple cups of coffee, and started going through the box scores and everything, and going through my game day notes and all that. I'm through week 5 right now, and we've already got 11 highlights. So we're going to have to trim it down a touch, but there's a lot of fun. This is just offense that I'm working on. You guys know the defense probably has even more top plays, if you will, of the first half of the season, seeing how well they played there with the turnovers and whatnot. So, but like I said, the chat's lit up. We got Nick McSwain in the house. We got Blake B, United Bates, Prince, Chris N, Andres, Josh Vallanningham, everybody filing in here now. Hope everybody's doing great on this glorious Saturday morning where we've got a chill in the air down here in Tennessee. I think we are finally out of the woods, got our last little stint of warm weather as it got up to 80 this past week. So I think we're good now. We're ready to roll, really get deep into fall. And as you guys can see back here, Mandy's already got the trees going up. I think the count this year is 15 Christmas trees in our house. So as I say every year around this time, I'm going to need your prayers because I'm not a big decoration person. And Mandy is gung-ho about it until it comes time to really dive in deep, and then she starts asking for help. And it's just not a good vibe in the house, if you know what I mean. I'm excited to be wealthy enough one day to just pay someone to decorate the entire house and let Mandy walk around with a hard hat on, just kind of instructing people on what to do. So, but anyway, Nick McSwain in the chat brought up a great point here. Actually, before I get to that, we put a poll question up, all right? And the poll question is, how many wins do you believe the Packers will finish the 2024 season with? And the options are 10, 11, 12, or 13. Now, I know there's some that say, hey, man, it's not a guarantee you win 10. I completely understand that. And there's others that say 13's out of reach, okay, or 14 isn't out of reach. The way I look at it is, listen, let's try to approach it from a realistic standpoint. And, I think 10, 11, 12, and 13 are pretty realistic. We could have went 9, 10, 11, 12, right? But we chose to go this route. So everybody get your vote in, and we'll try to check on that here in a little bit. It looks like we got several votes in already, and right now 11 wins is winning at 50%, 12 wins at 40%, 10 wins at 10%, and no one has voted for 13 wins yet. So I think that's a pretty good, a pretty realistic sample size there, to be honest with you. I'm in that 11 to 12 win range. Obviously, that's why I put those numbers up there. I think 12 is very much on the table, but I also think that 11 isn't, unreasonable either. We got Tim joining us now. Tim, what's up, brother? Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Morning. Diesel's hitting the system right now.
You go, man. Tell you, we got in late last night from the football game. We went to Knoxville and watched the playoff football game for the nephew, and it was rough getting out of bed this morning. I ain't gonna lie.
Did he get the dub?
Nah, no dub, man. We hit a buzzsaw in Gibbs. Gibbs, if you guys don't know, that's the high school that Kenny Chesney went to. A lot of his music videos were filmed down there and all that. But They got a good ball club. I think they went 9-1 on the year, and they play in a tough area too, where you got some big programs. So Emilio knows a little more about that probably than I do. I haven't lived in Knoxville for several years, but it was fun though. Stadium's awesome. The people were great there. It's just back in the country, just good salt of the earth country folk. It was a good time, man. But again, we got back late. Of course, Mandy had to stop at Buc-ee's. They love Buc-ee's. So I found myself in there after midnight in Buc-ee's walking around going, why the hell ain't I home yet? But that's the way it goes, right? So everybody loves Buc-ee's down here. I don't know. I just don't I don't get into it much. I guess I'm the Grinch when it comes to Buc-ee's. So let's see what else we got in here real quick. So this was a cool question, Tim. You actually jumped in just in the nick of time, man. Nick McSwain, good morning, PTA. 2 morning shows in a row. Me lucky that, Jan. Nick McSwain also said, if you had to choose right now, would y'all pick up Wyatt's 5th-year option? Talking about Devonte Wyatt. I think this is a great question. I really do. And he also went on to say, and I'll pull this back up in just a second. He said, less than 50% of first-round draft picks get a second contract with their original team. Doesn't look like Quay is going to get the option, so hopefully Wyatt does. I agree with the first part. I don't know if I agree with the second with Wyatt, and I'm not prepared to do too much digging here on the money. If you guys want to put it in the chat, maybe the guesstimate on what Wyatt's 5th-year option would be, because I think there's several factors that come into play there. Essentially what you're doing, though, is you're saying it's a 5th-year option that's very, very much comparable to starter money. So you're saying this guy is a starting caliber player, period, case closed. But you guys know we kind of subscribe to the old Belichick, Bill Walsh, Michael Lombardi way of you overpay for great, but you never overpay for good. So, Tim, we're hitting you with the tough questions right off the bat here, man. When it comes to Devonte Wyatt, as it sits right now, would you be willing to pick up that 5th-year option, which I would imagine is going to be over $10 million? I'm not 100% sure. Like somebody in the chat can hit us with that. Let us know for sure.
That is a tough one. That is really a tough one because Devonte Wyatt's trending upward right now, in my opinion. Yeah. And you'd hate to, lose a guy like that and then watch him go somewhere else and just be a beast, especially considering you're the one who kind of developed him and kind of got him into his professional skill set. But I'm with you, man. It's hard to really say unequivocally, yes, give him the option. Let's pick up the option. Sometimes I think in these situations, it's easier to know who not to give the option to than who to pick up the option on. Kind of like, it was pretty clear to everyone this year. We knew they weren't going to pick up Stokes' option. He probably won't be back next year. And that's the other thing. Just because you don't pick up an option doesn't mean the guy's not going to be back.
Bingo.
It's not a guaranteed thing, but picking up the option guarantees he'll be back. So, I don't know, man. I'm kind of like you, Clay. I'm probably leaning towards no, and kind of see how the market looks and see how the rest of this season looks for Devonte. And is he going to stay healthy down the stretch? Is he going to continue to play, at the highest level? And so I'm going to say no for right now. Probably not.
I think that's the area I'm trending into, man. I was trying to pull it up here and see. Exactly. Now, keep in mind, guys, he's under contract next year, too. So this is just a question that's being thrown out there by Nick of, are you willing to pick it up next season, right? So it's not like we got to make a decision on this right now. You guys know the 5th-year option decision is made in the offseason the year before their final year. So we got to make a decision coming up this offseason, but Wyatt is under contract through 2025. So what they refer to as a club option just in sports in general. But let's see. I was trying to see if we could find his market value where he's not a free agent. They're not going to show it right now. I don't even see like a player comp here, to be honest with you. But he's on the books right now for $3.5 million. Is he worth $3.5 million against the cap? Absolutely. No doubt in my mind. $4 million, I feel comfortable saying that. Now, listen, he's not a great run defender. He is a player, though, that gets pressure on the quarterback and does it pretty damn well. But when you're going to pay a player as if they're a great player and there's holes in their game, I mean, not to be too negative here, but to me, Kenny Clark falls into that category. That's what we just did. We just gave Kenny Clark top defensive tackle money. And
And he's a really good player, but not a great player, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And to me, I may even say he's a good player, not necessarily a very good. You know what I'm saying? Like he's kind of on that cusp for me. Great locker room dude, all that. But the other thing that you got to take into consideration too is like when you're looking at the comps and trying to determine, hey, what is this player worth? The big thing that hits me is like, how are they using them within the system too? Because it's you can fall into that trap of just looking at sacks, just looking at pressures and these things, and not truly keying in on, hey, here's what they're asking them to do. We've really highlighted that this year, especially based around Rashawn Gary and other players that you're expecting to kind of pop. Kenny being one, but with Kenny Clark, more times than not, you see him rushing the quarterback, and when I say rushing the quarterback, he's not really playing patty cake. He's not that guy. That's the first guy to engage on a TT stunt and then sit back and kind of play spy. They usually allow him to be that guy to really try to penetrate. And, I get frustrated when people dog on Gary because when you turn on the tape and you see the chips, you see how they're moving him around. You see how there's times that like when he pins his ears back, he can get to the quarterback. But you can tell Jeff Hafley is trying to be less aggressive in that regard to keep the defense in a more advantageous situation of not giving up these explosive plays. But I don't want to fall into that category of, hey, let's pile on a guy. He's having a bad year, and we're not in the meeting room. We don't know exactly what's being taught and coached. But to me, Kenny is higher on that list of, hey, this guy's not performing than Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary's having a bad year. I've said it all year long. Don't get me wrong. He's having a bad year. It's just not as bad as PFF's trying to draw it out to. And most of the fans that are just watching the box score, they're complaining about it, and they're not truly looking at the tape and going, okay, here's what he was asked to do on these plays. So as far as Devonte Wyatt, though, I would have to say no as well right now, Tim. I would. And it kind of pains me.
We're saying that right now. We're not saying period forever, And like you said, it's not like he's going anywhere next year. So got a lot of time.
And that's the thing, too, is like the fifth-year option is a tool for the club to say, wow, this dude, and it's why, what Nick said there on the previous comment we had on the screen, only 50% of the first-round picks options picked up. People going, man, that seems like a low number. It is. It may seem like a low number to the person that thinks that that's a benefit to the player. That's not a benefit to the player. It's a benefit to the club that you go, holy cow, we got a TJ Watt here, and he's going to break the bank. Let's go ahead and activate that fifth-year option. It's going to be cheaper than what his cap hit's going to be when we extend him. If you treat it in the opposite direction, which in my opinion, they did that with Darnell Savage. Darnell Savage is not that player that you go, holy crap, we've got to have him, right? Tim, that still is baffling.
I mean, we may have felt that way at one point,
week 2 of his rookie year.
I was just going to say, when he was like 22 years old, we felt that way.
So now here's the thing too. It's one thing to try to predict what the Packers are going to do. It's another thing to ask us, what would you do? We're telling you what we would do.
Yeah, now, exactly. We're not big on the prediction things here. We don't try not to do that.
And like with Kenny, you guys know, I was saying you let him test the market, let him play the contract out, test the market, and then see if it's worth it to match those offers, right? That's how I would approach this with Wyatt right now as well. Now, if he comes back from this injury and he just goes absolutely berserk, and I know there's some people that are going, but Clayton, he's the best pass rusher on our team. That's not true. His pressure rate is significantly lower than Rashawn Gary's. It's actually lower than Kenny Clark's, I believe, as well. It might be higher than Kenny's, but you can't treat him like he's if you hit somebody with a fifth-year option, you're saying they're a top 10 player at their position. I personally don't see that right now. So let's see. Aaron Rodgers with the super chat. Thank you, 12. Said, morning, fellas. With it be my first time at Lambeau in 2 weeks, any recommendations? I'm parking near Onada entrance. Go Pack, go. Man.
Here's the guy.
Yeah,
look at that.
There's a lot of things. First of all, congratulations.
Parking near Oneida entrance? Wow, you got a parking pass, a lot 1 parking pass too? Man, that's how you do it, dude. Wow.
Go all out. I'm not sure exactly what the question's asking here when you say any recommendations. If you're saying like, hey, what should my game day kind of consist of pregame and everything. Tim, I would definitely want to hear your take because you've got a lot of experience there in lot one. Me and Mandy, when we go to games, we want to get up as early as possible and get out there.
Yep.
And we like to do some laps around the stadium. We'll go into the atrium. You drop into the pro shop just to feel the kind of like I'm that dude that I'm not a big people person. You guys are like, no kidding. But like Christmas time, I like to go about a week before Christmas and just get out in the madness just for a day or two and just kind of experience it. I'm done with these folks. Let's get back home. Let's get back to the ranch here. So that's kind of how I approach game day is get out with the tailgaters, meet people, have fun. You're going to get offered a lot of drinks. You're going to get offered a lot of food.
A lot of food. Yeah.
They've got the what's the building called there right in, I think it's in the it's on the Oneida side. It used to be called the Johnsonville Tailgate something village.
Yeah, Johnsonville Tailgate Village, I believe it is.
That's pretty cool. It's always shoulder to shoulder in there, but you go in, they usually got live music. They've got we went there one time, and I think it was Wes Hawkowitz, Mike Spofford, people like that hanging out in there, and they do kind of a little, just a pregame, setup. And my goal, though, Aaron, is to get inside the Lambeau gates as soon as they'll let me. I want to be in the stadium as much as possible. And we usually sit in the box, so we'll go up to the loft we've got access to and hang out up there pregame, watch the flyover if there is one, all that good stuff. But, yeah, as far as the game day festivities, for me, it's all about staying in that parking lot until the gates open and just mingling with the people. But, Tim, what do you think, man?
Yeah, no, that's a great game plan. And I guess my first piece of advice is it's your first time at Lambeau. Give yourself plenty of time so you don't feel rushed. Don't overly plan your day and try and do too much in one day, because then you're going to feel like you're just running around chasing down experiences. I would agree with Clayton's statement. Get out there early. I believe the Niner game is a 3:25 kickoff. I don't have my schedule in front of me.
I got it right here. I'll pull it up.
I think it's 3:25.
Yep.
Okay, so 3:25 kickoff. So you're going to want to be out near 1265 by like 11 a.m., 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning at the latest. Get out there, get the full experience. If you're going to be on the east side of the stadium, a lot of great spots to meet people. Lot one is Tailgate Kingdom over there. But like Clayton said, don't have too much to drink, too much to eat too early, and then end up with that last push, we call it, which is
big push.
All of the drunkards trying to get into the stadium. And you will be caught at that Oneida gate waiting in line, and you will miss the first 3, 4, 5 minutes of the first quarter, and you don't want to do that at your first time at Lambeau. So I would get in there as early as possible, and don't forget 1 hour before kickoff, they always blast some fireworks to give you a warning that you've got an hour left to get in there. So at the very latest, that would be the time to start heading inside of Lambeau Field. But yeah, man, absolutely. If you have time, check out Crow's West. That's a great place to start over on the west side of the stadium. Check out Titletown while you're over there, and then of course after the game, 1919 Kitchen and Tap. I don't need to say any more. Look, Clayton's over there. He's already thinking about, what he's going to get. He loves that. What do they got there? The beer cheese soup over there.
Bro, I'm telling you, I call it the trifecta. You've got the cheese curds, you've got the beer cheese soup, and you got the elk stroganoff. All right. Now, listen to me. If you eat that elk stroganoff, you better not plan on doing anything the rest of the day, all right? Because you're just going to want to lay down and take a nap.
Especially if you follow it up with the cheese curds.
Yeah.
Cheese curds make my stomach hurt all the time, but I do eat them, though.
I like that with a spotted cow right there and sit at the bar. You got multiple TVs. They usually got NFL Network on. It's just – I'm telling you, Tim, if I lived in Green Bay, I would be having dinner there every single evening. I just absolutely love the vibe there. It's awesome.
For sure. Also, Johnsonville Tailgate Village there, another good spot if you want to use the facilities. There's a lot of porta potties out there, but if it's packed during game day, sometimes you can sneak into the Tailgate Village there and use a real bathroom if you need to. That's another piece of advice before you get in. And Pro Shop too. Check out Packer Pro Shop. Game day rules are a little different there. I believe the Pro Shop is only open to people who have tickets to the game But once you're in, once your ticket's been scanned, I believe you're in. So you got to kind of fully commit to being inside Lambeau. So give yourself plenty of time out there, Mr. Rogers. Have fun on your first trip to Lambeau. It's awesome. You never forget your first, man.
Definitely. Congratulations, man, for sure. That's awesome. And thank you for the super chat, Bob. We appreciate you. All right. So let's I'm getting hungry again. So we're gonna have to switch gears here. All right. That's only bad thing about talking about that. All right. So as far as Wyatt's 5th-year option, we kind of hit on that. Tim, I'm gonna pull this up real quick. Since this was already going to be a part of the show, we're gonna pop this up. These are the interior defenders according to PFF across the NFL. Okay. So that's what we've got here on this list. These are the top graded defenders. So again, Nick McSwain, with your question with Devonte Wyatt, when you think 5th-year option, you've got to ask yourself, do you think he's starting caliber at his position? And is he like a top 10 in that top 10, top 15 range? That's just me personally, at least top 32, right? And again, PFF isn't everything, but let's see what PFF says here, okay? First of all, the top defensive lineman in the league is Cam Hayward, 91.0. Shout out to Cam, too. This is a
I was just going to say, holy cow, he's like 200 years old, and he's still at the top of his game.
Funny story, too, about it was probably, let me try to think here. I don't want to mislead you guys. I guess it was around it's 2024 now. It's probably around 2016. I had a Madden league, an online Madden league, and a buddy of mine that's big Philly fan, big Eagle fan, obviously from Pittsburgh or from Pennsylvania, grew up there. He was like, Clayton, you ain't going to believe this, man, but I've been chatting with Cam Hayward, and he's looking for a Madden league. And I'm telling you, I rolled my eyes. I was like, hey, this can't be the real Cam Hayward. Sure enough, this was the real Cam Hayward, done a couple of drafts with us and stuff. He was in our Madden league for a short while. I was just like, this is unbelievable. Really, really cool dude. And I'm talking visual evidence. It wasn't just like we were getting catfished in a Madden league. It was awesome, though. Good dude. I was trying to figure out how the hell he found time to do it because he did keep up. We were advancing at a pretty good rate, kind of keeping the thing moving. I told him, I shot him a DM. I was like, listen, bro, you ain't got time. We completely understand. Don't feel obligated to be too engaged. He's like, no, man, I got some free time right now. I'm going to hit it. So it was cool. That's
really cool. Awesome.
But
anyway, and when I say he's like 200 years old, I'm joking. I just mean he's old in football years. Oh, I think he's like 35 or 36 or something.
Been in the league for a long time, man. And for a defensive lineman too, it's like PFF struggling this morning, so we may not be able to get that. I was trying to get that information. Let's see. Yeah, we crashed out. It's probably because it's been sitting there for a while, but we'll pull those back up. Just give me just a second as we get that key back up. But yeah, he seemed like a really, really good dude. He did. I was impressed with him. And those type of guys, Tom Brady said it best one time. He said, good things happen to good people, right? And Cam Hayward is one of those leader of men. I think he's been a Walter Payton of the Man of the Year award, either recipient or finalist for a long time. But anyway, he's the top graded defensive lineman now at 91.0. And Tim, to add on to what you were saying there, surely it'll show us. So he came in the league in 2011. So yeah, he's been in the league now. It doesn't show his age right off the bat, I don't think, but he's been in the league now for since 2011, so 13 years. That's
I'm almost positive. He's got to be in his mid-30s. I think he's like 35 or 36.
Yeah, no doubt. And the dude's still doing it at a high level, which that should kind of go to show you too. I know we all fall in love with the younger players, and you always want to kind of keep, man, we got to get younger. I got to be real with you. The whole getting younger thing, it's fun. Like last year was fun, but you've got to get to the point where you go, okay, we need a little bit of veteran presence on this team, right? Yep. And I know we just traded away Preston Smith, and some people will probably say, hey, look, Clayton, I don't see it that way. That's awesome, but how many rings has it gotten us here lately? You know what I'm saying? Like back in 2010 was the last Super Bowl ring, right?
We had some vets on that team for
Charles Woodson. You remember they went out and signed Howard Green, defensive tackle, right? They had Ryan Pickett was a veteran. They signed out of free agency. So you got to it's important to have a good mix. You don't want to approach it completely the way Aaron Rodgers wants to approach it. Let's have all 37-year-olds in here trying to play a young man's sport. But I do get that whole, hey, you need some veteran presence on the team. So anyway, let's see if we can find Devonte Wyatt on this list. All right. Again, 5th-year option. If PFF was the was the gospel, and we're not saying it is. Let's just pretend it is for a minute. You would think, okay, if you're going to give him a fifth-year option, he better be in the top 32 in defensive tackles, right? Meaning the best defensive tackle on a team. So you see he's not there yet. Let's scroll on down. We're going to keep trucking. Our first defensive lineman is Carl Brooks, all right? He comes in at a 61.8. All right, let's keep going. Next is Devonte Wyatt at a 58.3. So according to PFF, they have him worthy of the 65th best player according to his grade this year. So immediately you think, okay, he could just be having a down year in this new scheme. That could definitely be the case. Let's see what he's done over the course of his career, 3 years. His rookie year, 69.9. Last year, 59.6. This year, 58.3. Again, it's not everything, but I think it needs to be taken into consideration, right? Again, I just don't see how, like with Rashawn Gary, some people would say Rashawn Gary's overpaid. I am not one of those some people, okay? But with Rashawn Gary, when you look, his grade is low this year, no doubt. But if you look over the course of his career, you've seen that peak level performance. With Kenny, I think you've seen it 1 year. That's why it's tough to justify, hey, look. Now, again, it's a passing league. Kenny had his career high in sacks last year, I think it was, in a 34 jam front. Now you're in a 4-3. You think he's supposed to eat, right? He's going to eat this year, and the opposite has kind of occurred. But nonetheless, we're going to go through the PFF defensive grades here and kind of break down each position. So with the comment in there, I figured no better place to start than right here at interior defensive lineman, since we were asked about Wyatt. Now, also, when you look at Devonte Wyatt, that's why we're saying no to the fifth-year option, but you try to extend him at a rate that says, hey, this lines up with your production, okay? What is that? Is it $5 million? Is it $7 million? I'd probably be okay with that if he finishes the year, healthy. But you get into that 8, 9, 10 range, I'm kind of, and the reason being is like look at Carl Brooks here, 61.8, limited snaps, obviously. But Carl Brooks can be that player that steps in if Wyatt wants to play hardball and go break the market, right? And if he breaks the market, guess what? You get a comp pick. So you got to kind of look at it that way. Now, again, this is how I would look at it. The precedent, Tim, with the Packers is they're going to pay their guys. And we did not see that they were going to pay Kenny Clark. We just didn't see it, this new contract. And they did. I can't imagine they would be diametrically opposed to extending Devonte Wyatt. So he may be top priority on their list, and we're too stupid to understand it, right?
Yeah, exactly. What do we know? I mean, we're looking at these numbers. You got to think they're looking at this and everything else, multiple factors that contribute to what they're ultimately going to do with him going forward. But you're right, man. You want to see that grade. You always say that kind of like 60s, mid 60s kind of grade is kind of like the benchmark. You want to be above that. And he's knocking on the door. What was he, a 59 or 58, something like that? I mean, he's getting there. And this is year 3, right?
Yep, year 3.
Year 3. So, I don't think we look at him the same way we look at Quay. A lot of people are down on Quay. We don't think we're going to pick up his option. I don't know if Devonte Wyatt falls in that same category, but I do agree with the logic of, hey, we've got guys waiting in the wings. If he wants to test the market and someone wants to overpay, let him. I agree.
Yeah, and if they do, like you said, you're going to get a comp pick. So,
yep.
I was going to try to look at Devonte Wyatt's statistics. I know the big thing that Devonte Wyatt does well is pressure the quarterback, right? That's his superpower. And listen, that's a premium in the league. So you're willing to all right, we're willing to have less of a run defender so you can have a really solid pass rusher. That's, goes without saying for sure.
Yep.
Let's go to the chat here real quick and kind of get caught up. Bunch of people in here being active. Appreciate y'all. Blake B in the chat said, I got 11 wins, drop one more division game, a reasonable one like 49ers, and one stupid one we shouldn't lose like the Bears or the Seahawks. Okay. And currently the poll question, guys, go get your votes in. Got a lot of people voting now. 11 wins on the season is what's leading the poll question at 50%, then 12 at 27%, Then you've got 10 wins at 17%, and then 13 wins at 7%. So currently, most Packer fans here watching the show are saying 11 wins and 12 wins, Tim, in that order. So just kind of keep everybody up to date on that.
And I'm the knucklehead who said we're going 14-3. So according to me, we're going to win every game the rest of the year.
How many games do we got? How many games do we got left, Tim?
8, I think.
8. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 9. So 8. 8. That would make 17. So with 8 games left, you're going to have to win all 8 of them, right, to hit that 14. Listen, it's still on the table. And next week we'll be back saying 13 still on the table if somehow we lose, right?
I would rather be completely wrong and we drop 1 or 2 and go into the playoffs rather than, you don't want to go in on an 8-game win streak knowing that one mistake, the law of probability says you're going to drop a game. You definitely don't want to drop that game in the postseason. So
right,
get it out of the way now.
Yeah. Blake B in the chat says, Clayton, we ought to draft Kenneth Grant, Michigan's defensive tackle, going to probably have the RAS to entice Goody. So Kenneth Grant, it is November 9th, Tim, and we just got our first name drop for the draft. We were talking about this offline yesterday, wasn't we? It's going to be
Here's a guy
in a blink. The draft is going to be.
Oh yeah, before you know it. I guess we got first name to add to the list. Time to start doing the deep dive.
Exactly.
Before you know it.
I am going to put that down here just so we know. Kenneth Grant. And that was Michigan, right? I think that's what he said. So
yep.
We'll go Michigan.
Defensive tackle.
D-tackle. Cool. We'll take a look at him. And again, there's some people go, please don't start talking draft. We're not going to. Calm down. And I understand that too. It gets a little frustrating when you're in the middle of a playoff, potential playoff run, and people want to look ahead to April. I completely understand. It gets frustrating. So let's see here. Blake B also says, wish we were playing the Bears tomorrow. I want this taste out of my mouth. Here's the thing too, Blake, that's a good thing. This team, they went into that bye week, carrying this L. They had to think about it for 2 weeks. You think they haven't worked their asses off? Like they're putting the work in, no doubt.
Yep.
Let's see here. Ben Holden, who do you think is great versus good on the D line? I don't know if you're talking about our team or in the NFL in general. There's a perfect example of it. As far as great, here are your great players at defensive line on the year. Cam Hayward, 91.0. Dexter Lawrence, 90.0. Chris Jones, 89.5. Calais Campbell, 83.4. Looks like
wow.
McNeil for the Lions, 80.4. Travis Jones, 79.7. So when I say great, to me, 75 and above kind of feels like, okay, that's great over very good. If you grade out in the 70s and you get that big contract, I'm not going to scoff at. I'm not going to be mad about it because that is a solid grade, a really good grade. But yeah, I'm looking at those guys. When you say you're willing to overpay for great, you're talking top 10, top 20 in the league. Now, you have to take into consideration that a true 3-tech in the league is a premium position, just as important, if not more important, than edge defender. So you're going to overpay for players at that position. It's going to happen. So you may look at some of these guys and say, they're right outside of the great, category, but we're going to pay them like they're great because it's that important of a position. I'm just saying you can't take a player that's played good or above average and say, okay, well, he gets after the quarterback really well. Okay, let's pay him as if he's playing the same type of football as a Cam Hayward, who's got a 84.4 run defensive grade, or Dexter Lawrence in New York that's got an 82.3 run defensive grade, right? So it's about being more balanced. Like, let me give you an example. Free agency this year, Christian Wilkins, right? Remember us talking about him, like, hey, this guy's going to break the bank, and he did. The Raiders signed him, 74.8. He's the 11th highest graded player. So with the question, who do you think great versus good? To me, you got to be in this top 32, right? If you're in that top 32, you're in the conversation because that says that you would be the best defensive tackle on one of the 32 teams, right? That's kind of how I see that. And it's important. What I like about PFF is you can compare the grades apples to apples as opposed to just going, okay, this guy's sacks versus that guy's tackle for a loss. They're being asked to do different things at different positions, and then you peel it back another layer. They're being asked to doing different things in different schemes, right? So all that needs to go into consideration. But hopefully that answered your question there, Ben. I would say you better grade out in the top 32, and you probably want them closer to the top 16 than the top 32 if you're going to pay them top money and pay them like they're great. So let's see here. Steve in the chat says, I'm now hoping and now excited to see Brenton Cox Jr. get more playing time. I know Mosby is playing more now. What do you guys think of edge rushers without Preston Smith? I think you've got an opportunity. You're creating this void, right? You've created a void, and now you've got 2, 3, maybe 4 guys. Hey, here's your opportunity to fill that void, right? And I think that you're going to give LVN every opportunity to win it. And listen, I know a lot of people were down on LVN, but we watched some of his plays the other night. Like, he is not a bad football player.
Nope.
I think that when you're playing edge defender too, it's already in Green Bay, it's already a heavy rotational position, meaning they're constantly rotating those guys in and out. So it's hard to get a rhythm, right? You hear this about running backs a lot, but when it comes to edge rushers, you're setting guys up for moves, right? You may bull rush 2, 3 times in a row. Now you're going to hit them with a bull and a bull and dip inside, right? Like a dip and rip inside. So you're setting him up. He's anchoring his base to absorb that bull, and then you're ripping inside, right? Or you may show him a rip move a couple of times, a bull, then come back to a rip, and then go, okay, this time we're going to go with a swat and swim outside, right? Like you're constantly trying to set them up for the next move. When you're rotating, it's more difficult to do that. Now you add another layer to that, and you're a backup player that's not rotating on a consistent basis. You're just getting 14, 20 snaps. It becomes even more difficult to set those guys up with those pass rush moves. Also, too, is when you look at how Hafley's calling this defensive front, you're getting a lot of decoying going on. Like we were saying, protecting throwing lanes, protecting scrambling lanes. You'll have 4 rushers on one player, and there's only 3 that's actually going after the quarterback. One will engage with a couple guys, and you'll see him protect a rush lane. And I can't look at that guy who's protecting that rush lane and go, he got beat. Man, look at him. That's why people the laziest thing I've heard all year is people complaining about our edge defenders being blocked by tight ends. And then you go, man, really? Rashawn Gary got stonewalled by a tight end? Or Enig Barty got stonewalled by a tight end?
No, it was a tight end, a tackle, and a running back.
and then you turn on the tape too, and you'll see LVN engage with that tight end and punch him and kind of jab step in and then throw him back to the side. And you could tell he's protecting a rushing lane. He's not even going after if he wanted to beat that tight end, he could beat that tight end.
I think that's the biggest change that we saw in philosophy when Hafley came in. If you look at Joe Barry's defenses these past couple of years, we saw a lot of pressure being generated from our edge defenders and not a lot coming up the middle. I think it's completely opposite what Coach Half. Coach Half is emphasizing exactly what you just talked about from our edge guys. And then we're creating this pressure, this bull rush pressure to the inside. And then we're also getting creative with stunts and twists and things like that. So I think the design is, because what we saw a lot last year and the year before was pressure coming from the edges, but guys weren't maintaining contain. And so quarterbacks were able to get out of there and extend plays and light us up. You can't really do that if you're pinning them in the well and you've got your edges are holding contain and you're getting pressure up the middle. That's where you're finding some success. So I think it's just a change in philosophy too that we're seeing here, barely about half a season into this new 43. Just my opinion. I don't know. I'm not saying that's gospel, but just the way I'm seeing it.
Yeah. So to answer Steve's question here, I don't think the edge room is better without Preston Smith. I want to be extremely clear here. I don't think your edge room got better letting Preston Smith go for a 7th round pick. However, you're going to allow these other guys to get these reps. Preston Smith was a progress stopper, right? And listen, those are 2 different things. You can be a better unit with that player on the team, but him also be a progress stopper. Those 2 things can exist together. So now you're going to see LVN kind of get his opportunity to work in tandem with Rashawn Gary and obviously JJ Enig-Barre. And, like you guys said, Brenton Cox Jr. Another thing, too, we've seen Carl Brooks kick outside in a wide 9. You haven't seen it since Wyatt's been hurt. Mm-hmm. But now that Wyatt's back, expect to see Carl Brooks play a little wide 9 now. That's something he played in college, and he was damn good at it. What I mean by wide 9, outside shoulder of a tight end that far out, when you're looking at the text and everything. So, all right, Steve, appreciate it, buddy. Let's see. J. Cole said, I like what the Steelers have done with drafting their defense. You need football players, not just athletes. You are preaching to the choir, Jay. Preaching to the choir, man. But all the athletic traits and everything, they matter. They're important. Don't get me wrong. But the top priority should be the tape. The athletic traits, the RASs or whatever the Packers use as far as an athletic score to kind of draw parallels amongst players across the league. To me, that should be the tiebreaker, not the thing that skyrockets them up. And the reality is the Packers love drafting first-round picks that have just crazy athletic ability. They're expecting them to be gone sooner. And my opinion, I could be wrong. I'm just a dumb redneck fan from, down here in the South. But I think that the reason you hit more on second, third, and fourth round players, or second, now Tucker Kraft hit, I wouldn't say we've lit the fourth round or the third round up, but he's a third round pick, obviously. Second through, say, the fifth, is because you take your eyes off of that now. And you're like, okay, we're not so much worried about the athletic as much as the tape. And then all of a sudden you hit on people like Romeo Dobbs. You hit on people like Jaden Reed in the second round and players like that because you're not as focused on that RAS, albeit Jaden Reed, from what I understood, came in, worked out, and just absolutely torched the workout for the Packers. So it's like we're just looking at combine numbers. We're looking at pro day numbers. We don't even know what happened behind the scenes. That's not to even mention the interviewing process too, which is absolutely huge. Obviously, that's the big thing with Evan Williams that's now came out is he absolutely wowed them with the interviewing process. And lo and behold, Goody trades up to get him. And we've got arguably the best rookie defensive player of the draft is what it's looking like. Hopefully he can get healthy soon. So, all right, let's see. Drew D in the chat. If you had a choice at an elite edge or an elite 3 tech, what would you take in the draft? That's a great question, Drew. For me, it would be the 3 tech. And the 3 tech is going to have more impact on the running game. The 3 tech is also closer to the quarterback. When we go into a game and you play someone like a TJ Watt, let me ask you this. Who would you rather face, TJ Watt or Aaron Donald? I would rather face TJ Watt for the very reason that you can chip and he's further away from the quarterback. When protection breaks down, one thing that's common knowledge across the league is offensive linemen are taught you protect the end first. You'll let the free rusher come off the edge, but you better not let that 1 or that 3 tech come untouched because the quarterback is dead.
Dead meat.
So I would take the 3 tech. What about you, Tim? Would you take the 3 tech?
I smiled when you said that because I'm like, oh, here's another one we agree on for sure. And like I said, I feel good about our edge group that we have now. And don't forget, Goody could make a move in free agency. We don't know. He could add another edge rusher to the equation, especially once we see what, the quote unquote fallout of the Preston Smith deal is going to be. You never know. These guys could step up and we could, keep the ball rolling and look really good there in our edge room. I think the 3 tech is more valuable, especially considering that we know Kenny Clark is not going to be here forever. That's a guy that has been known to play there on occasion. I think if we had, and he's using the term elite, that's the key part here, elite. Right. So we're talking elite edge versus an elite 3 tech. I'm with you. You get a big monster in the middle, man, that can affect those passing and rush lanes, man. That's huge. I feel like we're talented. We got depth at edge, and if it were up to me, I'm taking the 3 tech for sure.
Yeah, completely agree.
I don't know if we're trading up to get one. I don't know if I'm going that far, but if there's, if we're in a position to pick and someone has those attributes, they do have a high RAS. They also have, great tape. They're, like you said, there's a whole process that goes into this, but there's one on the board. I'm taking the 3 tech for sure.
Yeah. Same. For those of you who listen on the pod, that's going to do it for hour 1. We will see you on the other side for hour 2. We appreciate y'all. All right, welcome back to hour 2. Let's get into it here. 2-0 for this morning. All I can't watch, but I just wanted to pop in to remind everyone that the Bears still suck.
The Bears still suck.
Love it. Andres MX says, sorry about the question, guys. What is the difference between edge and 3 tech? Okay, I took the graphic out because
I was scrolling looking for it, Clay. What'd you do with my graphic, man?
I can find it pretty quick, but we'll explain it. So, Andres, the way that the positioning on the defensive line is communicated across the NFL, across football in general, is you're talking techniques. So you've got your offensive line, right? You've got your center, your guards, your tackles, okay? When you're describing how a defensive lineman lines up, each offensive lineman have an even number attached to them, okay? So if you're over top of the center, just nose up on the center, that's a 0 tech. If you're lined up straight up on the guards, that's a 2 tech. If you're lined up straight on the tackles, that's a 4 tech, okay? So the numbers that are odd are in between. So when we say a 3 tech, you're talking about center 0, guard 2, tackle 4. Splitting the guard and the tackle would be a 3 tech, okay? And typically you put your best interior defensive lineman in that 3 tech because you use your nose tackle to play a 1 tech because you're going to, again, you're closer to the quarterback. So you're going to eat up a double team most likely with that. The name of the game on the defensive front is you're trying to create one-on-one matchups. Like that's been the issue with Gary this year. That's why you see Gary standing up, moving around. You guys seen the tweet I put out where he was acting like he was dribbling a ball between his legs. He was just kind of standing there waiting for the snap. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to create hesitation with the offensive line. You're trying to get him away from those chip blocks. Because again, if this is Greg Cosell said it best. When you're the best way to watch and understand the value of a defensive line. This is Greg Cosell, the GOAT, talking football, not me. This dude's been breaking down tape since the 70s. I was born in 82. So he's been breaking down tape over a decade longer than I've been alive. He says people are looking at sacks and they're looking at pressures and they're looking at these statistics and they're going, oh, this guy's so good. The true measure of how good a pass rusher is how the opponent treats him, how they try to allocate resources to stopping him getting to the quarterback. And when you look at Rashawn Gary, he was being chipped third most in the league. So you're saying we're going to take 2 bodies. We're going to go -1 hat count to make sure we take him out of the equation. That's a win for the defense, but you got to have the dogs elsewhere to win as well. So if he's eating up a double team, right, then that should free up single across the board for everyone else unless they're in some form of max protect. Okay, so that's why we say 3 tech edge defender. If you've got one of those 2 players, or you got both one of those each of those positions on your defensive front, it's going to be really difficult for them to double team both. So think Kenny Clark 3 tech and think Rashawn Gary 9 tech. Okay. So when we say what's the difference between edge and 3 tech, the edge defender is typically lined up in a 5 to 7 to 9 tech. Most people have just now said if you're more than a couple feet on the outside shoulder of the offensive tackle, we're just going to call it a wide 9. And honestly, when the wide 9 came about, it was described as imagine your tackle. If you're on the outside shoulder, you'd be a 5 tech. You got a tight end, outside shoulder would be 7 tech. A double tight end, you'd be outside shoulder would be 9 tech. But most people would just say outside of the left tackle, at least, 1 gap. If you're not just on his outside shoulder, you're out, 1 extra gap, a make-believe gap. Just call it a wide 9. So that's the difference between edge and 3 tech. Your 3 tech is an interior defensive lineman lining up between the guard and the center, the guard and the tackle, and your edge is at least at a bare bone minimum a 5 tech, a 7 tech, or a 9 tech. So it's a long way to answer that question, but I want to create that visualization. I don't want to just say, I could have answered the question and said, what's the difference between an edge and a 3 tech? A 3 tech lines up inside and an edge defender lines up on the outside, right? But I wanted to explain the text. That way you come away knowing, okay, I got it now. When I hear people say 2 tech, 3 tech, 0, whatever, I know that's what they mean. It's real simple. Most people won't take the time to explain it because they want to feel important.
Then you have the 4-eye, 5-eye. Explain. Do you want to explain that too?
Yeah. So and this is what's hilarious is like some people will go, I don't care about the 4-eye or the 2-eye. It doesn't matter. You ask a coach that and they care. Oh boy. I mean, you're talking about a matter of inches making a big difference in the game of football. So with like a 2-eye, like if you're in a 2 tech, a true 2 tech, you're going to be lined up directly over the guard, right? But if you're 2-eye, you're going to be on the inside shoulder of that guard, okay? So it's like
Which is just a little difference in your approach, right? You're just shading a half a foot or half a step over sometimes.
a 2-eye is a half a step difference from a 3-tech. But it matters because you're occupying that half a body of that lineman. They may choose to set the protection, and this is how defensive coaches strategically set up their opponents is rather than going in a 3-tech where they may just fan the protection to the right so that guard can pick him up, right? Let's go with the 2-eye. And maybe now the center will have, if you go with a 2-eye on one side and a 3 on the other, the center is now going to prioritize that 2-eye on the left as opposed to the 3 on the right. So you're trying to get them in a spot to where they'll fan the protection in a certain area that's going to give you more advantage when you're playing their specific scheme, because they'll set up, like when you see the overload, it's not Jeff Hafley going, at this time, Tim, let's just try to overload left. That's not what he's doing. He's looking at, okay, when they're in trips and tray, I want you guys in overload opposite side, because when they're in trips and tray, they like to go to the throwing lane over there. We're going to run a TE or a TT stunt, actually a double stunt, a TT and a TE stunt, and get that edge defender to where he thinks I've got the throwing lane because this guy's I've just got one defender over here. Next thing you know, he crosses the face, gets the hands up, and the throwing lane's gone. Like there's a lot of things that come into factor. That's this much. And it's all I know. I'm an idiot when it comes to football. It's just this much. There's so much that goes into play. And that's why when you hear these pressers, the coaches and the OCs and the DCs, they kind of like Matt LaFleur last year when everybody was going, you're only playing with 2 linemen. And Matt went, boy, you are really exposing yourselves. Like, you have no clue what you're talking about. And that's okay. But when you walk into a presser with your clipboard and you think, I'm gonna get them today, and you don't even know what the hell you're talking about. I swear.
That's football. That's football in a nutshell at this level, right? And the minute you think you know what you're talking about, everything changes and the game evolves more. Right. You realize you know nothing.
It's constantly changing. That's what the NFL stands for, not for long.
Not for long.
As soon as someone picks up something that works, it's a copycat league. Everybody embraces it and go. We've talked about pistol this all. I love that. It's my favorite thing in the offseason, Tim, is trying to think, okay, let me dig deep. What are the trend that nobody's talking about that's going to hit next year? And lo and behold, what we uncovered this offseason was the LA Rams using the hell out of pistol and Kyron Williams running all over the league, right? And I said, look for more pistol this year. Packers come out and hit more pistol. It's if you learn how to shut up and watch the tape, I'm telling you, it'll speak to you. You'll catch tendencies. Cheat motion. The year before, it was cheat motion, hands down. And that was
yo-yo or zipper motion
Mike McDaniel started using that cheat motion with Tyreek Hill to get him a run and go. He's already fast enough, but you get him that run and go, and boy, that's why they call it cheat motion. It's like cheating. It's like the old Arena League days when the guys would get the run and go and tear off up the field. It was a short field anyway. But speaking of Arena League, Coach Lynn in the chat, what's up, Coach? He says we need a big 1-tech, in my opinion. You know what's crazy, Coach, is like TJ Slayton. He's one of the better pressure defensive linemen on our team.
And he's probably the closest to a true nose, right? We have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's definitely our nose. And what he's talking about with 1-tech, Coach is talking about lining up between the center and the guard. That's what we refer to as the nose tackle, right? Like if you play, you'll hear the term shade. They won't say, they won't say 0-eye. They'll say shade, meaning you're playing the inside shoulder of the center, right? You're not playing like true nose. I've always referred to the defensive tackle that's closest to the center as the nose. That's kind of the simpleton's way of understanding it. But a true nose in the day was lining up directly over the center, right, in a 0-tech. But that's changed a lot. And now they'll refer to it as 0-tech and shade. And like Coach is talking about, that 1-tech and a 4-3 front is huge. I was going to try to pull the stats up. I'm not going to put them on the screen, but I wanted to point this out real quick, Coach, that when you look at the stats from a pressure standpoint, and again, to me, that's the most important stat. You want sacks over pressures, don't get me wrong, but you'd much rather have a boatload of pressures and less sacks than, more sacks and fewer overall pressures, if that makes sense. But when you go to quarterback pressures on the year, TJ Slayton's 5th on the team. Rashawn Gary's 1st with 28, Kenny Clark with 15, Devonte Wyatt with 12, Preston Smith with 11, and TJ Slayton with 11. So TJ Slayton had the same number of pressures that Preston Smith had. and TJ Slayton predominantly plays the nose. And when you look at playtime percentage, TJ Slayton is at 40.4%. Preston Smith was at 53.7%. So if you go to quarterback pressure percentage on the team and you reduce the noise of the linebackers and the DBs, right? Aaron Mosby has only got his pressure percentage is leading the teams when you take out the linebackers and everything at 31.3%. But he's only had 3 pass rushes. So you got to kind of throw that one out too, right? Next would be Rashawn Gary at 13.5%. And right behind him is TJ Slayton at 11.8%. My point, coach, is it kind of feels like TJ Slayton can be that one tech, you know? And I don't get me wrong, I did not expect this. Like when you go, TJ Slayton was drafted to be a nose tackle on a 34 front, that 34 jam that we were running under the last 2 or 3 coordinators, right? I expected him to be the first person gone. And he's the one getting the highest pressure percentage. So I'm kind of wondering, Preston Smith gone now. Maybe Carl Brooks will kick out to a wide 9 occasionally now, right? And not a whole lot, but that'll remove some of the snap percentage from like LVN and stuff too and kind of keep it more balanced. Maybe they're trying to get TJ Slayton on the field a little bit more. It could be that too. So I'm with you though, Coach. What I would love to see is a 1 and a 3 tech just absolutely dominating together in tandem, right? Like think
with a solid edge group on top of it, and now you're dominant up front.
Imagine here's what I'm saying. Imagine having Cam Hayward playing your 1 tech and Dexter Lawrence playing your 3 or vice versa. What the hell is an offense going to do? They're going to have to pinch that offensive line every play, and now your edge defenders are just eating off the edge, right? So, but I understand completely, Coach. I think where the league is such a passing league, that's why people are really keen on 3 tech, 9 tech, as opposed to like a 1 and a 3 or a 1 and a 5, you know. But TJ Slayton, man, I'm just saying. And I don't know what his PFF grade is. Let's see if we can find it. I think we should have the amount of minimal snaps. There's Wyatt. Let's see. There's Kenny Clark at a 50.7.
Drew D in the chat. Great comment here. TJ Slayton was the same way in college. 5 hurries, 1.5 sacks. His senior year, people always assumed he was just a run stopper because of his size. Great point.
And when you say people just assume that, this guy right here is guilty.
That was us. Yeah, for sure.
Me.
For sure.
So TJ Slayton, PFF not high on. They've got him at a 42.7. But again, you look at the pressure rate, you know, that's the thing. Like I don't want to keep going. It is what it is. PFF, I just want answers. I want answers like, okay, show us how you're coming up with these pass rush grades. Show us how you're grading out of pressure. And when I say show us, I'm not saying don't explain to us what it means. Show us the plays. Say timestamp here.
And then PFF's over there like,
I'm not going to, so quit asking.
That's why it seems so weird. It's like, why would you withhold that? More information is better than less. And Ryan did a great job earlier this season talking about PFF and how they've changed and everything. And it really it brought a lot of things to light for me. Like, yeah, man, they have steered away from what they used to be. They used to show the -2s and the grades and everything. And then they converted to what they call a Madden grading system, which really kind of threw things off because you had players that were just like J.J. Watt had crazy, like 120 or something, right? And they're like, well, we need to break that down to under 100 and compare to this and that. It's okay. Now you're muddying the water. It should be positive play percentage. And that's where EPA is really taking over now, right? EPA and EPA allow. But anyway, I don't want this to be a too over the top analytics show, but it's important to take everything into consideration. Let's go to edge defenders now. Okay, so we hit defensive tackle because of a listener bringing that up. Man, that was a great conversation though, to kind of deep dive that. So when you go to edge defense, Aiden Hutchinson, TJ Watt, Khalil Mack. Look at Khalil Mack, man. That surprised me. Like that dude.
Look at Aiden Hutchinson. Guy hasn't played in like what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. He's still at the top of the list.
Bro, that dude I remember that draft. And doing my draft grades and putting the board together, I'm like, this dude is a slam freaking dunk. And if I remember correctly, you guys correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, I'm pretty sure Jacksonville took Trayvon, whatever his name was, the one we played the other day. They took him over Aiden Hutchinson, I believe. It's like, boy. And I looked at that and I was like, and I think it's Trayvon Walker, I think. When they took him to their GM, you know why they took him over Aiden Hutchinson? Because their GM was crazy about athletic ability. Like, hey, this is the guy that's got more upside because he's just this athletic freak. And then you look at Aiden Hutchinson; he was great at stopping the run at Michigan. He was great at rushing the passer. He was a team leader. He just had Hall of Famer stamped all over him. That blew me away when they took Trayvon Walker. I went, that's why Jacksonville is Jacksonville, right there. That's it. That's said. So anyway, those are your top three. Nick Bosa still doing Nick Bosa things, 90.7. Myles Garrett, 91.3. Right. So if we go down and find our first edge defender, according to PFF, it's Rashawn Gary. He's 49th in the league at a 66.9. Okay. So that's where he sits. Next best is Kingsley Enagbare at a 65.6. And I got to be real. If you had one game, one play, you got to make a play, Tim, to stop an offense, and you got to pick one of these two edge defenders, LVN or Kingsley Enagbare. For me personally, I think I'm going JJ Enagbare.
I think so
I've
too.
seen more plays from him, right?
That guy is he's a spark plug on the defense. He really is. And another one that's good at, getting pressure without full on getting pressure. That's something he improved. You can see that in his game, even from last year to this year. Talk about holding that edge and not breaking contain, occupying a blocker, doing the things that you're being asked to do. And then, it's a thing of beauty when they just send him, because he's a great pass rusher as well. And I just like the way he plays defense, man. He plays with his hair on fire all the time. And I think there's truth to that, Clay. I think if the game's on the line, man, and we're going to send the dogs, I like JJ Enagbare for sure.
Yeah, and what's crazy is I'm pretty sure that was the draft me and Ryan did our first draft stream together, and I had my board tacked up back here, and JJ Enagbare was the best player available on my board for like 3 rounds. And then finally when the Packers took him, I was fired up. I was like, yes. I referred to him as Enagbar, but obviously his name is Enagbare. That's the guy too. If when the season ended the year before he came out in the draft, so like before, I'm trying to think of how I can word this to not confuse anyone. So he was going to be coming out in the draft, right? The year before, when the college season ended, he was the top edge defender on the consensus big board, kind of like Kalen King. Then you go into the next year and he dropped, right? And he fell to the Packers. So, and again, why is that? The tape, all over the freaking tape. So you got LVN, who's this crazy RAS guy, right? Again, first round pick, gotta love it. Well, we can mold him. He's if I hear ball of clay one more time, I'm going to slap the hell out of somebody. I'm telling you, a ball of clay has never won you a football game, right? Yeah. And I like
is looking to draft someone that they can turn into NFL talent. They're looking
right, yeah. And I think talent. LVN, don't get me wrong, I think LVN is going to be a great player. I believe I've seen it. I've seen the flashes. I'm like, I know that dude can do it.
Yep.
But Enagbare has got a multitude of moves and he understands leverage. He's got great bend coming around the edge, and it's just a lot more fluidity in that regard. I'd have to go with Enagbare over LVN right now. Now, do I think Goody and LaFleur is going to do that? Absolutely not. They're going to want their first round pick out there. Period. Yep. Case closed. So, So there you go. Bar. What was he say? Ben Holden. Did you say bar beer? Oh, beer. Got it. Yeah. There you go. It's early. It's early, Ben. I'm drinking daddy sodas this early. All right. Next on the list will be for the Packers. Got to go pretty far down. LVN at a 47.6. He's 108th in the league right now. And again, we've showed multiple snaps of him protecting rush lanes on the outside. I think you'll see him take on Preston Smith's role a little bit more and just actually be one of the guys getting after the quarterback. But again, I'm okay with Enagbare. Obviously,
I'm interested to see LVN in some of these coverages too, because we would peel Preston off and let him drop into coverage. And I'm not saying LVN's not capable of that. I just see LVN as in coverage. He's great sideline to sideline. I don't know if he's a turn up field,
straight
north and south kind of guy as far as the coverage goes, but could be wrong. Could be wrong. It'd be something to see.
And that's what's crazy too, is like, the upside of drafting someone with an extremely high RAS that just absolutely killed the measurables, you would think he would be good at that, right?
Yep.
But again, Quay Walker is an athletic freak, but it's about using this and gaining that half a step through your mind as opposed to, okay, I can wait and then win with my athleticism. It's just the league's different, man. It is.
Yep. So true.
So that's all they got in the top 150. So what that would suggest there is kind of what I was thinking coming in. Enigbare, a little more prepared right now than LVN. So I would they're going to split a lot of snaps. Don't get me wrong. Like if I were to pull up the playtime percentage, I'll keep the PFF up right now. But playtime percentage as far as defensive linemen, Kenny Clark at 68%, Rashawn Gary at 64%, Preston Smith was at 53%. Then you had I'm trying to just go edge defenders here. Enigbare 43.2%, LVM 41%. Okay, so again, you're replacing 53% of the snaps. So I expect those two guys to split those snaps, along with, again, if Devonte Wyatt's fully healthy, and I think he is now, Carl Brooks taking a small portion of those snaps too, where he's playing a little wide nine as well. So
I'm all for that. I'm all for seeing a little more Carl Brooks. I really am.
Yeah, me too, man. I think he's a solid player. I think Matt LaFleur absolutely loves him too. He wants to keep him on the field. All right, so we did edge defenders. We did interior defenders. Let's go to linebackers now. Let's see where our linebackers are stacking up across the league. Leading the way, surprise, surprise, Fred Warner, 91.6. Elandon Roberts for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he used to play for the Patriots. 89.9. Sorry.
Bobby freaking Wagner.
Tim, don't you do this to me.
Bobby freaking Wagner, number 3 on the list. Another guy that's about to collect Social Security, but still playing at a high level.
We wanted him this offseason. We were like, man, why not go get Bobby? Sign him to a 3-year deal, and it's truly just a 2-year deal. Right. And you can, imagine this. And this is what I'm talking about. You already had Quay on the roster. Let's say you went and got Adrian Cooper. The draft stays the same, but you signed Bobby Wagner too. Imagine Bobby Wagner in that rotation, or probably staying on the freaking field right now next to Adrian Cooper. Like, man, oh man. So Drew D in the chat said, remember when Aaron Rodgers said Fred Warner was the best inside linebacker and the media thought Rodgers was being ridiculous? I do remember that. And Fred Warner is a dog, man. He does everything well. If someone's saying, Clayton, what's a true mock? What are we looking for in a mock?
Fred Warner.
Go turn on all of Fred Warner's tape. Go. Yeah. That's what you're looking for in a mock.
And show me what he does poorly, because there isn't anything. That's a complete linebacker.
Yep.
Rooter to the tutor.
Definitely. Chris N pointing out, look at Leo Chenal up there toward the top of the list. One of Jacob's guys, too, out of Wisconsin. Loved him. And Bond as well. Zach Bond up there at number 5. So really, really cool there. All right, let's see. Yeah, exactly, Drew. That's what I'm saying. Like, imagine what Cooper could have learned from Wagner. When you sign someone like that, right? I hit this football in my hand like I'm a freak over here. When you sign someone like that, that's got a Super Bowl ring, one of the best linebackers in the history of the game, has played on these world-class defenses like the Legion of Boom.
President of the Legion of Boom. Come on now.
Yeah. You put him in that locker room. Think of the knowledge they can pull from him. Think of what it would have. You're saying Cooper, and I completely agree, Drew. What about Quay?
Yep.
Someone like Bobby Wagner working in there with him could have unlocked Quay. And again, this is what we're talking about, where you can be too conservative not signing these old guys, right? That would have been a great pickup. Sure. So, yeah, Coach Lynn just hit it. Imagine what Quay could have learned. Exactly. So, yeah. All right, let's scroll down here and see where the Packers come in. Looky here, Tim. Who's first? Eric Wilson at a 78.4, my man. Eric Wilson at a 78.4.
Here's the guy.
Bad game last week. Missed tackles. So, right? Listen, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Continue to go to him, right? Like, keep him in that heavy rotation, because he's shown he up here, he's probably more prepared than anyone else in the linebacker room.
Yep.
I feel comfortable saying he's got better awareness, better play recognition than Quay Walker. I feel comfortable saying he's got better play recognition, better awareness than Adrian Cooper, who's a rookie. Like, keep putting him in the rotation. Sure.
But wait till Adrian Cooper comes into his own there, though.
Oh my God!
Starts building that. He'll be up there underneath Fred Warner and the boys at the top tier. I guarantee you, it's coming. Guy's a monster.
here you've got Edgerrin Cooper coming in at number 22 at a 69.6. Like what you're saying there is what PFF is saying. Eric Wilson and Edgerrin Cooper are both starting caliber linebackers, stack backers, right? Not edge defenders, stack backers, and a 4-3 stack backers, or one of your two inside linebackers in your nickel set. Those are the two guys that need to be on the freaking field. Quay needs to be the rotational guy. And again, people are going to Clayton this PFF. I got it. I'm not saying PFF is everything. But what we've watched on tape says the same thing, right?
What do we know about what we do here? Our first-round picks tend to hang around and see the field a lot.
It feels like Savage again.
It does. It does.
But anyway, I'm not. Again, I don't want to come across as cocky like I think I know more than Goody. I don't. He's forgotten more about football and scouting than I would ever know. It's just I'm too stupid, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I'm too stupid to realize what he sees to suggest and what maybe Matt and Half see. I honestly believe that there's a lot of pressure on the coaches to make sure these first-round picks are on the field. That's just me personally.
Me too. I agree.
I could be wrong, but it kind of feels like that. And I'm not saying Goody's going there going, you better start him, but I think there is conversation.
There's a tone set in the building. Yeah.
Exactly. Sure. All right, let's see if there's another linebacker that pops up here. Isaiah McDuffie, 57.1, so he's 61st in the league. When you look at it, there's 32 teams. In your nickel defense that you're going to be in probably 65 to 75% of the time. There's going to be two linebackers on the field at all times. So 64, McDuffie, it's not a great grade, but he's still grading out as a top 64 player. So you would consider that starting caliber, right? And then as we scroll on down, Quay Walker is 75th, so he's just outside of that starting caliber at a 47.7. So that's how your linebacker room is looking. Anything you want to add to that, Tim? That kind of feels like many times we look at PFF, like with the edge defenders, with the offensive lines run blocking, we go, I don't understand how they got this. These linebackers, this feels like what we've seen. Don't you agree or no?
Oh, yeah, I agree. I do, for sure. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I can't wait to see some Tyron Hopper here in the future too.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got some youth in that linebacker room, and it'll be nice to see those guys all hit the field. But I think you're right, Clay. I think we're going to see a shakeup here at some point with our middle guys, and Quay's probably going to be your rotational dude. Yeah.
Coach Lynn, Savage dropped a pick 6 versus the Niners. Think about that. Remember that? Like that's the difference in that ballgame. You just held on 1 year too long. You did, man. You did.
Or that's two.
Crazy. Evan Williams catching that football.
Oh yeah.
Xavier McKinney's catching that football. And somewhere Joe Barry's going, y'all can all kiss my rear end. That's happening. Right
y'all got Edgerrin Cooper and Evan Williams, and I had Devondre Campbell and Darnell Savage.
Exactly. All right, so there is your stack backer position. And let's move on now. So I guess would be, where are we at, the hour 13 mark here? Let's move on to cornerbacks. That sound good, Bo? Let's do cornerbacks real quick. All right, cornerback room. Zion McCollum for Tampa Bay, 86.9. Jalen Ramsey, 83.4 for the Miami Dolphins. Cooper DeJean. All right, Cooper DeJean. You guys remember that name from the draft? On our draft board, we had Cooper DeJean. I want to say I had him 27th overall, and I think I end up listing him as a safety because I see more value in the safety position, or did I change it? I think I changed it back. So I had him listed at corner. 1, 2, 3, 4. He was the 5th best corner in the draft according to my board. Now, the reason I wasn't standing on the table screaming for Cooper DeJean, I would have been okay with that pick. I would have been okay with that pick in the first round, right? But the reason I wasn't standing on that table is because there were some scouts saying, they don't know if he's a safety or a corner, right? You can look at that two different ways. You go ahead and go, man, that's versatility, or boy, that screams potential bust, right? Because he's that tweener. We've seen those. You guys remember the first thing I thought of was Demarius Randall. Like, oh man, I remember when they were trying to figure out, is he a safety? Is he a corner? Those things come in the back of your mind. I would have been perfectly fine with the pick. As far as Jordan Morgan, to put that into perspective, tackles, Jordan Morgan was considered a tackle in the draft, although he's just played guard for us. That is way more valuable in the draft than a cornerback is and a safety is, right? I know I had him at tackle. Jordan Morgan was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Eighth best tackle on my board. So they flew off a lot earlier. The Jordan Morgan pick made a lot of sense. I was okay with it. Still am to this day. I think he's going to be a great player. But Cooper DeJean, man.
He's kind of on the lower end of the snaps, though, if you look at the snap count. Yeah, well,
201. That's good
compared
point.
to the rest of the top 10, yeah.
That's a good point, yeah.
Not taking anything away from the kid at all.
Right,
I'm just saying you can see the snap counts are a little lower.
Yeah. Now, you got to take everything into consideration for sure. And you're right, man. He's got 201 snaps as opposed to the guys above him, 456 and 582. So it's definitely make a note, keep a tab on
the sample size. That's all. Yeah. How about Jalen Ramsey though? A guy that's another OG journeyman veteran guy, and normally you see a regression that, especially with corners that late in their career, and Ramsey's still apparently Mr. Reliable there.
Yeah. Coach Lynn mentions Andrew Phillips there. Can you read that one for me? And I'll try to find out.
Yeah, Andrew Phillips of the Giants, 79.2 grade, 74 run defensive grade, 78 pass rush grade, 76.8 coverage grade. Andrew Phillips, another one, kind of a little bit smaller sample size, not quite as small as Cooper DeJean on the snap counts. He's got a 296 on the snap counts here.
Yeah, like Coach was saying, Andrew Phillips, we were looking at late.
We sure
I think I had him as my 17th best corner, Kentucky boy. That was I wouldn't have been surprised if they took him too, because Kentucky Wildcats are kind of a pipeline for Goody and how they build their team for sure.
Yep.
But looky here, Tim, 12th on this list, my man, our very own Jair Alexander. So he's climbed to 74.9, 12th. That makes me feel a lot better about that contract. Now the problem we're facing is the snaps. 50, he's missed 50% of his potential games of the last 32. He's been hurt 50% of those.
No, I miss this Jair, man.
Took it down the sideline, turned over with my guys, gave the football to a little kid wearing 23.
And you could see a difference last week, couldn't you? I don't think he'll missing is the reason we lost the game, but you can tell the difference when he's not on that football field, man.
Yep, he brings a certain demeanor to our secondary, I guess, a certain attitude, a certain swag, if you will, to our defense. And we can talk about him, executing and how he's looking out there freelancing on occasion, those kind of things. We've seen less of that this year compared to last year, but there's no denying when you've got Ja out there with Xavier McKinney, and we have Evan Williams, and we're at full strength there. Whenever we figure out this other boundary corner too, whoever the hell that's going to be going forward, opposite of Jair, that's when our defense is at its best, regardless of, breaking down the weeds of each snap and all these things. Jair just, he brings that energy and that attitude that you want on your defense. Like you said, it's a lot easier to deal with the yap and the talk when you're walking the walk consistently. Right. And we want to see Jair walking the walk a little more. But we don't know. He's been dealing with these nagging little, lower body injuries for the last couple of years, groin, knee, ankle, things like that. Everyone was so concerned about the shoulder. He had the shoulder injury a few seasons back, and Ja's not hitting the same anymore because of that shoulder. I'm more worried about the knee and the ankle and these groin issues that he's having. So we'll see if he can get back to as close to 100%. And like I said, I want the old Ja back, man. Let's get out there.
Yeah. And again, like you said, when he's grittying on Justin Jefferson, if he breaks a pass up, we have no problem with it. But when you're getting beat on a consistent basis, it's a lot harder to stomach. But that's just us being selfish fans. Me in general, I'm just saying me specifically rather. So again, the 12th highest graded corner in the league. You're willing to overpay for that, right? Let's see who
we are.
Yes, yes, we are. Yes, we are. Again, availability and accountability has been the problem there. So your next highest graded corner on the Packers is in the 72 spot. That's Keyshawn Nixon at a 60.2. You guys, we talked about this in the offseason. I wanted Keyshawn back because you create a floor, kind of a high floor for the cornerback room, and you got the best return guy in the game, right? Mm-hmm. I think this is a good year for Keyshawn. Anyone who is expecting Keyshawn to grade out any higher than this, I think you've got unrealistic expectations for a guy who's getting paid $5 to $6 million a year and mainly getting paid because he's the best return guy in the league. So he is our second highest graded corner. I've seen some people say he shouldn't be on the field, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you're throwing.
I disagree. He's playing better ball on defense than he did last year.
Yeah, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater if you do that. It's just like Rashawn Gary. It's like he's a bum. No, he's not a bum. He's your best pass rusher right now. Just because he's not having a great year doesn't mean you try to get rid of your number one asset. You can acknowledge that he's not having a good year, right? But you got to also acknowledge he's the best pass rusher on your team right now. Keyshawn, again, second best corner for the Packers. Up next, who makes it on the list next here? Let's see. Eric Stokes at a 51.1. So that's surprising. I was expecting to see Carrington Valentine higher than him, unless I overlooked him.
Look at the snaps, though. I mean, it's true. Quiet as kept. Stokes he's been out snapping Valentine for sure.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if that's going to stay that way down the stretch here. It doesn't look like it is, but
yeah.
CV also had some injury issues too, so maybe they didn't want to throw him into the fire too quickly. Hopefully he's progressing along, but clearly that's going to be the plan. The phase out of Eric Stokes it's happening. I think I really do, unless he comes on strong here down the stretch. But it looks like him and Valentine are the ones splitting those snaps on the opposite boundary. And
he's grading out in the 98 spot, right? Which would suggest he is a third string corner, right? Like and what I mean by that is you can't just say, okay, he needs to be on the field. No. It don't work like that. You've got your slot corner, right? And whoever's going to play slot, you want to comp them across the rest of the slot corners across the league. Now, Keyshawn's hard to do because he's playing outside a lot. What I'm saying is Eric Stokes is playing like a backup corner. He should not be starting, and you damn sure better not give him that fifth-year option. You better not, which obviously they didn't, right? He's going to be a free agent. So if I remember correctly, right? This is the last year.
They already said no on the option.
So you let him test the market. Listen, if you can get Eric Stokes back for $3 million per, I'm all for it. But you don't pay him.
He's a rotational guy. Yeah,
exactly. Because he knows the system. He's an athletic freak, but again, it just hasn't panned out. So Carrington did not make this list. Now, sometimes they screw up with some of these, and some of them will have a decent grade, but they won't be on the list. So
I wonder if he didn't have enough snaps to qualify. What are the minimum snaps?
Yeah, that's a good point. We haven't even touched that. We probably should have done that as we went along too. Let me see if we can remove the minimum snaps. So again, we'll try to pick up on his grade, and then we'll see where he would have popped in. I guarantee it's the minimum snaps. So let's see here. Let's calm down. Let me pop this back over so we can actually see it. So with the minimal snaps removed, okay, Carrington Valentine, 63.1. All right. So 63.1. And we'll wrap the show.
200 must be is that the threshold minimum of 200?
I guess so. So 63.1 would put him much higher, much higher than Eric Stokes, and would actually put him in the number 60 spot. So a starting caliber corner is what he's grading out. And again, what was our boy Keyshawn Nixon? He was on down, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. Keyshawn was in
what was he at?
Top 100, I thought.
72. Sure. Yeah,
72. Okay.
So that would suggest you should play Jair Alexander, Carrington Valentine, put Keyshawn in the slot. Now, if Evan Williams is healthy and you want to keep Javon Bullard on the field, kick Keyshawn outside. There's you a nice little rotation. Keep fresh legs if you need them. Bring Bullard into the slot. You got Evan Williams on the field, right? That's kind of how it feels. So
I think that's going to be based on the matchups, though, right? Every game plan, because there have been times where Bull looked really good in the slot, and then there were times where he got his lunch ate all day long in the slot. So,
yeah, no doubt about that, man. Coach Lynn says injuries zap Stokes' ability.
So true.
Man, that was and Tim has been more vocal about this than anyone, Coach. That was a gruesome injury. Like, do you even remember the detail? I don't remember. It's been so long ago, but it was like a couple breaks in a couple spots.
Yep.
Torn ligaments too. What it was?
It was bad. He blew up the whole. I believe it was his left knee and leg. But the fact that the guy's even walking again is impressive. But But I agree with that, Coach Len. This is not a knock on Eric Stokes as a player or effort, that kind of thing, because I can tell you from the last 2 camps that I saw him working back from those injuries, man, that dude was locked in, serious, trying to get back to the field. He looked so damn good his rookie season, and you really saw that potential for, unlimited. You talk about a high ceiling guy. That was Eric Stokes Jr. when he got here. But yeah, exactly like Judy said, nearly lost that leg playing football. Yeah. And the fact that the guy's even in the lineup again playing is a testament to his work ethic and the type of athlete and dude that he is. Another guy you talk about, great teammate. Nobody doesn't like Eric Stokes Jr. in that locker room at all. But I'm 100% with Coach Len here, man. Them injuries just ruined it for him. That's probably what turned him into a rotational guy as opposed to starting caliber is the fact that the injuries just mangled him, man.
Yeah, completely agree, man. It sucks, but that's football. That is football. So, guys, that's going to wrap it up here for Good Morning Lambeau. We're going to be back tonight, 7 p.m. Central for PTA. We'll pick up at the safety position, all right? So we'll pick up there, and then we'll also dive into some other stuff. We're going to have let's see, I had it queued up here. We're going to look at the team statistics, like where the defense ranks, rushing. We'll go offense and defense, scoring, points per play, rushing, passing game, everything. Do the same thing on defense. This is kind of a self-scout week, right? And I'm going to continue to break down the tape. I'm going to finish putting together the chalk talk for the top offensive plays of the first half. So we'll have that ready to go. And then we'll also do one for defense. I'm running out of time. I know people are going, man, the bye week's taking forever. And I'm over here going, oh, crap, I got a lot of work to do. So we'll get those 2 chalk talks put together for you guys and do some live streaming with that so we can actually watch some football this week with the Packers, just kind of reliving the first half. And then obviously it's Bears week right after that. So we'll dig right in. But appreciate everybody hanging out. We'll see y'all tonight at 7 p.m. Central Time for another episode. Like I said, we'll break down all that stuff and keep this bye week chugging along. Help me out here, Tim.
For those of you listening on the pod,
thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go Pack, go.